you for joining us on this not quite so bright Thursday afternoon here. It's not too bright for me, but thank you for joining us anyway for our today's Learning Lab. And today we're going to be taking you through completing your Sage Intacct VAT submission. Just before we get started though, I will go through some introductions and a little bit of housekeeping with you. If you could just flip, thank you, Ash. So for those of you that don't know me, I'm Fiona. I work in the customer success team. And taking us through today's Learning Lab is Ash, who is the head of our Sage Intacct support team. A little bit of housekeeping for those of you that have not joined us on one of our Learning Labs before. As we go through the session, your microphones will be muted. However, if you look in the GoToWebinar panel, there is an option there to pop some questions in. So please do pop any questions in that question box as we go through. At the end of the session, I will read those questions out, or there will also be the opportunity to take yourself off of mute and you can ask away any questions that you have. Finally, the session is being recorded and you will receive a copy of that recording via email following the session. And please feel free to share that around any colleagues who was unable to make today. So that is one last thing from me. I will just take you through today's agenda. So Ash will be taking you through prerequisites, so what prereqs are required before the VAT submission, how to prepare your data, how to create and review the data prior to submission, entering those VAT reporting periods, how to view and work through any of those late transactions, and then finally we'll go on to submitting the VAT return and looking at any manual adjustments that need to be done following the submission, and looking at the related files that are produced following the submission too. So I think that's everything. I will now hand you over to Ash.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's Learning Lab. So I'm Ash, and I will take you through submitting your VAT returns within Sage Intacct. I do understand that this can be quite a nerve-wracking process if it is your first time, but I promise it is a very simple process. Intacct does most of the work, so I hope this is helpful. Okay, so to start off, submitting your VAT within Sage Intacct is a multi-step process that calculates and remits the returns to your tax authority. So before you can start with the tax submission, you need to ensure that your books for the tax reporting periods are closed. This is just to ensure all taxable transactions for said period is included in the submission. So if you are submitting for the first quarter, Jan to March, you then close your books through to March. So I'm pretty sure most of you are familiar with the process of closing the books within Sage Intacct. So that is just going to the general ledger module, all tab books, and then you will enter the entity if you are submitting for multiple entities, and then you will select the to the end of period. And once the books are closed, you can proceed to the tax module where you will prepare the tax data that can be sent to Sage Regulatory Reporting. So to prepare or initiate your tax return, you'll navigate to the taxes module, tax submission, where you will go about and select new tax submission. In the submit taxes screen, you'll enter a name for the tax submission. This is just to identify the period that you're submitting for, the locational entity if you are submitting for multiple entities. The tax solution, if you've got multiple, will be included in the drop-down, as well as the VAT registration number. So all VAT reg numbers that you've got assigned to each entity will be in the drop-down list that you can select. Once you've entered all of this information, you can go ahead and click on Prepare Tax Data. This will then take you to the offline process where all data is being collected. The processing tax offline, this is where you can enter the email address that where you will receive an email notification notifying you that the data is all processed. This is just gathering all information included for all transactions, which will be included in the tax submission. There has been times where once you receive the email, you'll be able to continue with the submission. There are times where I've seen the processing is complete maybe a minute or so before you even get the email notification. So if you're wondering why it's taking so long to receive the email, I always suggest to just refresh your screen and go back, and then you'll see you'll be able to be ready to continue. So just an example of what the tax data preparation email looks like. So whoever email address is entered will receive the email. You can, once you get the email, click on the login link that will take you back into Intacct to the tax submission screen. Otherwise, you can just navigate to the taxes module and proceed with the tax submission. Okay, so once the email is received and you're ready to continue, you will navigate back to the taxes module and edit the tax return that you've just created. After you prepare the source data to send to the Sage regulatory reporting, you can create the tax return primarily within Sage. So within the processing steps, after the prepare source tax data is complete, you will see how many transactions is eligible for the submission. This is where you can then continue and proceed to create the tax return. Once you click on the create tax return option, depending on the whether you're submitting South African VAT or UK VAT, for South African VAT, you'll have the option to select electronic submission. A prompt will then ask for your Sage credentials, which will then review and confirm all transactions within that submission. For the UK VAT, you will be prompted to authenticate your HMRC credentials, which will then allow you to view all transactions included in that submission. Okay, once you have entered in your authentication details for UK VAT in the open obligation period field, this is where you can select the period that you are creating for. Usually this will be included in the drop down. For South African VAT, you'll be prompted to enter a start and end date for your VAT 201 submission. You can then once authenticated, you can select the option to create tax return. That will then open up a list for your late transactions. So if any transactions are found from before the period you're reporting for that are all eligible for tax, a late transactions window will appear. This is what you're seeing on the screen. You can select the option to view the late transactions, to download a CSV file that you can analyze to determine which action you want to take. So you're either going to include all late transactions in the submission. You can select the option to include it in a later submission or exclude them from all tax returns. If you choose later, next month when you initiate a new tax return, that transactions will then again be available to include. Once you've made the decision as how you want to proceed with the late transactions, you can click continue, whereby you will be able to review all of your tax data. So after you have reviewed and verified your tax information and you are comfortable with the figures, you can then submit to government. We do always advise to take it offline, review your calculated tax return. If for any reason you need to make an adjustment to your tax submission, you can click on either box 1, 2, or 4 to make the submission. If you do click on edit as an action, this will open up the adjustment screen. So once you click edit for the line you want to edit, you can enter the amount by which you want to adjust the calculated amount. So for example, if the value in box 1 needs to decrease or increase by 10 pounds or 10 rand, that will then either increase or decrease. And then you'll have a new amount. We advise just giving a reason for the adjustment. Many a times adjustments are made because you maybe just moved over to Intacct and half of your VATable transactions has already been accounted for in the opening balance, and therefore you need to account for that within Sage Intacct. Once you have made the adjustment and given a reason for the change, you can then go ahead and click make adjustment. So once you've made the adjustment, you need to post a journal on Intacct manually. This is only if there is other reason other than being initial submission on Intacct. So after you have entered the general ledger journal on Sage Intacct for the specified amount, you can then come back to the submission and click the adjusting journal entry complete. There are times where you don't have to select or create a manual journal. You can still proceed to select the option, because this picks up that adjustment was made to the submission, whether you will be accounting for it in Intacct or not. So that is basically the completed process of submitting your VAT. Once complete, there are files and reports relating to this very tax submission. So I'll just take you through all of the related files that you will find within your tax submission. So the detailed report, those are basically just a breakdown of all transactions included in the submission. This report mirrors the submission, but with the more detailed information to help you reconcile the submission if needed. And then of course you've got the late tax. This is the transactions that are dated after the start date of the first submission. If you choose to not include late transactions, you won't have this file available. You've also then got the business info. This is the business identifier information for the submission at hand. And then the transaction JSON file. This is just the source tax data for the transactions grouped by the tax UIDs in each transaction. And then you've also got the tracking data. This gives you information about the submission of the return to HMRC. This will include tax reporting periods, the HMRC bundle number, receipt number. You can use the information in this report if you need to communicate with HMRC or SARS about the return. And then the summary is basically just the VAT return in a PDF form. If you made manual adjustments, you will have a manual adjustments file. So this will include any adjustments made to the different boxes. It also shows the box number, original value, and the adjustment value, as well as the new value, and the reason for the adjustment, if for any reason it gets queried. And then the VAT adjustment report. Lastly, if any manual adjustments does affect box 5 within the submission, this report shows the value of the adjusting journal entry that you need to then make within Sage Intacct. But that is the completed process with Sage Intacct. Like I said, it's a very simple process. Sage Intacct does most of the work for you. There is also reporting within Sage Intacct that you can review just to confirm that the figures that you are submitting is what you do expect it to be. You can let us know if you have any questions. You can unmute yourself, or you can drop a question in the question box. Otherwise, you will receive a recording of this in which you can raise any further questions if you do have any.
Super, thanks Ash. Yeah, nice quick learning lab today. As Ash demonstrated there, the system does do a lot of the work for you, so it should be a nice smooth process. But should you have any questions, or if you're in the process of doing a VAT return and you just need some assistance with it, then please do drop us some do drop us an email or get in touch with us. My email address is on screen right now, so if you do have any questions or feedback from today's session, or if you have suggestions of future topics that you'd like to see us cover on our Learning Lab, then please do drop me an email. We do appreciate any feedback. And just to let you know, our next Learning Lab will be on the 25th of September, and we will be taking you through reconciling the control accounts. We look forward to seeing you there. Thanks everybody, thanks for joining. See you soon.